Many people do not think of Haiti as a tourist destination unless they are attracted to adventure and are free from cultural biases. After landing, they will discover the multiple facets of this country and can't always believe what others say. After departing from Port-au-Prince, I continued my journey, flying over a mountainous landscape on my way to Cap-Haïtien in North Haiti. The flight on a small airplane of a local airline was not very stable. Still, the beautiful landscape compensated for it. I tried to concentrate my attention on what I was watching by the window. Landing in Cap-Haïtien, on the north coast of Haiti and capital of the Department of Nord. The next day I began to admire this island's beauty that has its way of life and culture. I traveled to the edge of coastal streets, and I went into the country's interior in the middle of hills and local people in search of the Henry Citadel. The start of the 7 miles trail to the Citadel is near the entrance to Sans-Souci Palace. I was offered to rent a horse for the uphill trek. Many people live along the path and sell souvenirs or drinks, such as fresh coconut juice, sodas, or water. The entire 7 miles trail starting in Milo is almost entirely uphill and can be walked if you are in good physical condition. The creators of the Citadelle Le Fourier had a very creative approach to its appearance. This is not a tedious box-shaped construction but an embodiment of unlimited human imagination. The Citadel's appearance from the trail leading up to its base has been likened to the prow of a great stone ship, jutting out from the mountainside. The structure is angular and assumes different geometric forms based on the viewer's orientation. The Citadelle Le Fourier, or Citadel Henri Christophe, is an imposing early 19th century fortress situated on the Bonnet à l'Évêque mountaintop in Nord, Haiti. Located approximately 17 miles south of the city of Cap-Haïtien, and 5 miles uphill from the town of Milo. Commissioned by Haitian revolutionary Henri Christophe and built by tens of thousands of former slaves, the Citadel was the linchpin of the newly independent Haiti's defensive strategy against potential French attacks. Some of the Citadel angles were intentionally put there by Christophe to deviate cannonballs if attacked. The epaulette is an excellent example of using hooks to turn and deflect shots. The stronghold remains the only African-derived military fortification in the New World and the first example of African-derived colonial architecture. The citadel serves as the universal symbol of liberty, being the first monument to be constructed by black slaves who had gained their freedom. Christophe was a general in the Haitian army and chief administrator of the country's northern regions. The ensuing power struggle he had with his rival and fellow revolutionary Alexandre Pétion would result in his self-declaration as King of Northern Haiti in 1811. The location enabled Haitian forces strategically keep watch over a vast distance, from the nearby valleys to the coastline. The Haitians outfitted the fortress with 365 cannons of varying size, assembled from the abandoned munitions left behind by the European forces that formerly occupied the island. The enormous stockpiles of cannonballs still sit in pyramidal stacks at the base of the fortress walls. Christophe suffered a stroke in 1820, and some of his troops mutinied. Shortly afterward, he committed suicide according to legend, by shooting himself with a silver bullet. Loyal followers covered his body in quicklime and entombed it in one of the Citadel's interior courtyards to prevent others from mutilating the corpse. Haiti, the ancient name Taino of the island before the Europeans arrived in 1492, was given to the country. Since then, Haiti remains the first state in the world, resulting from a slave revolt. This region of the north of the country remains mostly peaceful, making travel to the Citadel a good adventure experience. Despite the military mission and the atmosphere of war and danger still present in the Citadel, its windows open an amazing view of the surrounding landscapes. There are fantastic views on three sides of tumbling green peaks and, to the north, Cap-Haïtien, where the streets are lined with colorful shops, watchmenders, and old men playing dice. Workers laid the large foundation stones of the fortress directly into the rock of the mountaintop, using a mortar mixture that included quicklime, molasses, and the blood of local cows and goats and cows' hooves that they cooked to glue and added to the mix to give the mortar added strength and bonding power. The harmony of the landscape with the Dondon Valley and the surrounding hillocks, demonstrating a representative selection of the region's different environments, constitutes a coherent human system. The topographical perception of the axis between coastal and inland areas, justifying this territory's occupation by the construction of these buildings, fortifications, and palaces, is robust. Millau is a commune in École du Nord arrondissement, in the Nord department of Haiti. Millau is a leading tourist attraction of the country, housing several historical landmarks and sites and having a rich history. The African pride in the construction of the King's Palace was captured by the comment of his advisor and architect, Pompey Valentin Bastely, Baron Valentin de Bastide, who said that the palace and its nearby church in Millau, erected by descendants of Africans, show that we have not lost the architectural taste and genius of our ancestors who covered Ethiopia, Egypt, Carthage, and Old Spain with their superb monuments. At the same time, King Christophe, Henry I, undertook the construction of a grand palace surrounded by gardens, situated at the foot of the access road to the Citadel near the village of Millau, the Palace Sans-Souci. This sizable architectural ensemble responded to the need to concentrate the new monarchy's essential administrative services around the royal residence. Surrounded by mountainous peaks covered with luxurious vegetation, the palace and its buildings were grouped in an amphitheater covering about 8 hectares. The architectural ensemble comprised the royal residence, the palace itself that Henry I used as a principal residence until he died in 1820. Sans-Souci Palace, which translates to the Worry-Free Palace, dates back to 1811, just after Haiti had become the world's first independent black republic. Despite the weight of time, and a significant earthquake during the 19th century, the ruins of the Sans-Souci Palace maintain an imposing air and stand as an inspiring testament to the opulent post-revolutionary era. Christophe used his reign as an opportunity to build up Haiti's standing in the international community's eyes, particularly its former colonizer, France. The name Sans-Souci came from another Haitian revolutionary, Jean-Baptiste Sans-Souci, who Christophe had asked to form a united front with, but who refused out of mistrust. A decade or so before the palace was built, Christophe invited Sans-Souci to visit him. When Sans-Souci accepted, he was promptly assaulted by Christophe's guards, and legend has it that the palace bearing his name was built where he was killed. This is scarce antique footage of the 1920s showing how the palace used to look after the 1842 severe earthquake when a significant part of the castle was destroyed. Some scholars have also asked whether Christophe took part in his inspiration for the palace from the Prussian King Frederick the Great's palace in Potsdam, Sans-Souci, a symbol of European Enlightenment achievement. Other scholars argue the palace's architecture is inspired by Beaufrand's designs for the Château de la Malgrange for Leopold, Duke of Lorraine, near Nancy. In any event, the palace's splendor was remarked by various visitors, generally acknowledged by many to be the Caribbean equivalent to Versailles Palace in France. Proud of its magnificence, the Palace of Sans-Souci was an essential step in Henry Christophe's plan to demonstrate to foreigners, mainly Europeans and Americans, the black race's power and capability. This is how the palace used to look like in 1822, as illustrated by one of the few survival drawings. Christophe was well known for the luxurious parties and feasts he hosted at the palace. From the lush gardens to the intricate waterworks installation still visible in ruins, the palace's design reflects this luxury. During its heydays, Sans-Souci Palace was compared to Versailles in France. Henri Christophe was a former slave and a self-educated person. He built the court under a program to demonstrate to foreigners like Europeans and Americans the black race's power and capability. Incidentally, the palace shares its name with one African slave revolutionary leader, Colonel Jean-Baptiste Sans-Souci. In 1982, UNESCO designated both Citadelle Les Ferrières and Château de Sans-Souci, carefree country house or castle, of Henri Christophe as World Heritage Sites. Although looted at the death of Henry I and seriously damaged by the 1842 earthquake, the Palace Sans-Souci ruins conserve their essential and original architectural characteristics, general proportions, harmonious openings, significant architectural elements and details, component materials, etc. Though Sans-Souci is now an empty ruin, at the time, its splendor was noted by many foreign visitors. One American physician remarked that it had the reputation of having been one of the most magnificent edifices of the West Indies. It remains an impressive and coherent ruin, owing to its otherworldly beauty to an exceptional harmony with the mountainous setting, as well as its recourse to diverse and yet reputedly irreconcilable architectural models. The Baroque staircase and the classical terraces, the stepped gardens reminiscent of Potsdam and Vienna, the canals and basins freely inspired by Versailles, impart an indefinable hallucinatory quality to the creation of the self-declared king.